Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 6th of May, comes to you from London. And we saw big falls in the markets last night. The S&P was down 3.5%, the Nasdaq down similarly. So we are just seeing these targets coming home to roost. We've got a further 15 and 17% downside on the 0.5% chart. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart, long-term, medium-term, and short-term views of the market. So that's the backdrop in which we are looking. If we look at equities first, if we look at the dollar index, first of all, we see that's just holding that strength. Did fall on that Fed announcement this week, but it is back above where it was, making 20-year highs, so really significant. We're past the 2020 high, and you have to look all the way back to 2002, so really quite something. And that's been driven really by falls in the euro. We're sitting at 105.70 still, with downside targets. We're looking to parity, and we put out a report on the euro earlier this year, of course, giving the long-term downside targets. The short-term ones have now been met. Looking at the Japanese yen, we're sitting at the 130 level, so the dollar just holding that strength there. So the dollar and the euro and the yen are big components in the dollar index, and that's really what's driving that dollar index higher. Sterling falling further, sitting at 123, so falling further there. Election results out today in the UK. Conservatives haven't done very well. That's pretty bad for the UK currency, and we're seeing there just that downside target on sterling not looking great. Looking at euro sterling, we're sitting at 116.80, so again sterling falling quite heavily against the euro this week. That's giving us multi-month low, really. That's the lowest level since we've seen since December, the lowest level this year. So sterling has been stronger against the euro, but that's just now changing. Looking at Bitcoin, we're sitting at $36,000. So that's fallen away a bit as well. Quite sharp falls last night. Just sitting on that cloud support at the moment. And looking at the S&P 500, of course, we mentioned it was down 3.5% on these downside targets, all coming home to roost. And on the Nasdaq, the downside targets are even greater: 10% on the short term, 14%, 20 and 27%. That one not quite yet activated, but expect big falls in the market. And despite those falls yesterday, we've got the market down slightly still on the futures, so it's not like it's going to bounce back today by any stretch. And the VIX volatility sitting at 32 points, so that actually is the fear index back above the 30 level, so market's not looking very happy at all. FTSE futures down 0.2%, just struggling there, and the DAX cash market in Germany down 0.7%. So a lot of this is tech driven in the US, which is why we're not seeing these indices which are less tech laden down not as much. The CAC 40 in Paris down 1%. The only market really in Asia was up was the Japanese market, up 1%, but the rest were all falling. The Hang Seng has had a dismal 12 months, just down further, and the Shanghai Composite also 2% lower. So really these markets not looking great. This Sensex in India down 1.5%, and the Aussie market pretty badly hit, down 2%. So looking weaker there. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. We're seeing soft commodities down. It's a little bit of a sell everything market. We're seeing soft commodities down 1%, corn down 1%. Gold is bucking the trend up slightly at 1878, just holding that short-term bull trend, but can't really hold the 1900 level. And long-term, I was talking to a client yesterday, doing an online session with them, and we were really saying that basically gold has got to break this 2000 level and hold it now to be convincing. We're increasingly in a long sideways consolidation move. Silver is weaker this morning, and we're seeing platinum and palladium down as well. And copper just struggling to break higher, but still holding the long-term cloud, just a bit weaker here. So we are just seeing pullbacks. The The US 10-year yield is now at 3.08%. So, and we will have another thrust target building on this new column. So we've got targets up to 4.5% on some of the other charts, and the 30-year yield now sitting at 3.17%. So really pushing quite higher there as well. The techs were pretty badly hit last night. Apple was down. We're sitting at 156. 150 is the support level for Apple. That's probably the best of a bad bunch at the moment. Amazon weaker, just falling away. Big downside targets. Keep an eye on those on your charts. Google much the same. Microsoft again falling lower. So we're seeing some pretty big falls overnight. And Facebook, of course, had big falls in the start of the year, and even though it had a little bit of a recovery on good numbers this last month, it's now just struggling still below the cloud. Looking at the energy mix, we've got Brent crude basically up this morning. We've called pretty much we've called crude oil higher. We've got this break of the triangle pattern. That's going to be quite explosive. Some really big new upside targets. Keep an eye on those on your system. Same with WTI. US nat gas sitting at $8.78, and again big upside targets kicking in here now. If we go to new highs, we activate one above $10 on nat gas. RBOB is actually broken up ahead of crude, so that's quite key. Looking at emissions, we put out a report yesterday on emissions, and so that's looking pretty strong as well. And if we look at TTF, we are down this morning just slightly, and NBP down by more. So gas prices not doing as well as at the open this morning. German power is sitting at 227. We put out a report this week giving targets to this level, and again we've got some big upside targets there. And looking at power markets across Europe, in fact, if we just look at those reports, they're in your news system, and if you go to the energy special reports, there's the German power report. Here's the carbon emissions report that was out yesterday with all the trends and targets at the end of the report there. So really quite key. And if we look at some of the other power markets, it's just looking crazy. So looking at German power here, we've got UK power up as well, just nudging on the cal, that level of nearly 200 as well. French power sitting at 279, just rocketing. Hit that target there, the shorter term targets, and then looking at some of the others, Nordic power, and you can go right the way through. This data, of course, comes free with your professional system in Updata, so you can look at all the power markets in Europe. So really looking quite strong indeed, and keep an eye on these charts. It's just so we've got price projections for all these markets looking very, very strong. Look at Bulgaria, Slovakia, Slovenia. And in fact, I'm in Croatia on next week, and Slovenia, speaking at the gas conference. So will be very interesting just looking at some of these markets in detail. That's it for today. Until Monday, have a great weekend. As I say, I'm actually on Monday, I'm in Croatia for the week, speaking at the International Federation Conference of Gas Professionals in our patio in Croatia. So I'll do my best to record these sessions throughout the conference. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Happy charting. See you then.